I am the Watcher, an omnipresent force that has shaped your world since the first plumb bob flickered into existence. Since before times medieval, I have witnessed as you became the hero or villain of your legacy. I have silently guided your actions, offered a motherlode of fortune to the worthy, and unleashed unspeakable horrors upon the foolish. Confess to me your aspirations, your desires. Whisper your wicked whims into the ether. But remember, the eyes of the Watcher miss nothing. Watcher, do you know what it's like to grow up with the land grab name stitched into your skin like a brand? It sounds glamorous to outsiders. Money, power, a seat at every table. But the truth is, being a land grab means your property, a pawn, a PR stunt. My childhood wasn't bike rides and tree houses. It was etiquette lessons, networking dinners, and staged smiles for magazines that printed my name next to lies. And if you didn't play along, if you couldn't fit into Nancy's grand plan, you were disposable. That's what happened to me. I didn't want the name. I didn't want boardrooms. I wanted the stage, the lights, the applause. I wanted to write jokes, tell stories, breathe for once without feeling smothered by generations of my family's sins. So, Nancy cut me loose. She said I was a disgrace. Proof that not all diamonds shine the same. That the family had no son. And Geoffrey? God, Geoffrey. He stood there, silent, letting it happen. At least, that's what I thought. I know the truth now. Geoffrey never abandoned me. He couldn't protect me in the open, not with Nancy watching every move. But he had someone, Agnes, the old woman with sharp elbows and a sharper tongue. The woman who wanted a child, even if her temperament was too coarse to admit it. She kept an eye on me when no one else would. The day Nancy forced the family to abandon me, I found her address scrawled on a piece of paper in my coat pocket, no doubt put there by Geoffrey. Once, on a birthday, she said, "Your father sends his love." So soft I almost missed it. I laughed in her face, because what kind of father loves me from the shadows? But she was telling the truth. Geoffrey was there. Still, that doesn't erase the years I spent alone. The humiliation, the secondhand furniture, the long walks home when my car broke down, the shows where no one laughed at my jokes except for the drunk person in the back. You learn to wear the mask of a fool so no one sees the cracks underneath. I'm writing this down so you'll remember it. So when the smoke clears, no one can twist the story. I want you to know that Johnny Zest, Johnny Landgrab, wasn't just the family fool. A few weeks ago, Trashley introduced me to a redhead. Her name was Eliza. She was sharp, relentless, wore a smirk that says she's already 10 steps ahead of you. The same smirk Nancy often wears. In another life, this woman would have been my enemy. But she saw in me what no one else bothered to look for, a pair of eyes with experience on the inside. Together with Trashley, we've been watching Nancy's empire from the shadows. Every deal, every secret meeting, every thread in the web. Tonight, as the full moon burned over Willow Creek, all the shadows were moving. Eliza is patient, but she's been holding her grudge for so long that it's curdled into an obsession. This morning, she packed up her camera crew, sent them on an assignment. But they're not hunting ratings anymore. They're hunting dirt. Every lens is trained on Nancy, and while her little spies skulked off, Eliza was convinced the crown jewel to her series, irrefutable proof of Nancy's crimes, lay inside the BFF house. I'd been quietly following Cassie that night. She had her mother's eyes, always scanning, always observing. I'm actually surprised she never noticed me stalking her trail. She looks for truth for the fun of it, only telling what she finds to her notebook. She doesn't realize that truth is best used as a blade. When she slipped between the shadows and into the girl's home, I knew she'd find more than she bargained for behind those doors. That's why I went after her. But I wasn't alone for long. Eliza's heels clicked softly behind me. 3 of us, looking for clues in the dark. The house held an uneasy silence. There was no sign of Cassandra, but I knew she was here somewhere. Behind a door, the soft sound of metal scraping against itself. As I approached the door, I can hear the scurry of startled footsteps. She really doesn't know I've been following her. Cassandra had somehow managed to wedge herself into a crowded tool locker. Her small frame shaking, but her eyes sharp as broken glass, clutching a journal and a dossier. On top, a scrap of paper, a schematic of the very panel bolted to the only other door in the room. Cassandra's eyes caught the panel first. Landgrab tech. She traced the edges with trembling fingers, whispering the model like a confession. She'd seen it in files stolen from her mother's archives. Eliza didn't hesitate either. She popped open the casing on her camera, tore the circuits from the flash, burning them into a makeshift EMP. Sparks flying across her palms. The final spark cracked loud as a gunshot, frying the panel into silence. Well, that was dealt with. But there was still the matter of the steel lock. Along the bottom of the lock, there was a dial. I pressed my palm against the metal, felt the grooves of childhood memory carve themselves back into me. 4 numbers, burned into me like the brand of my name. 12, 1, 14, 4. L-A-N-D. A lock named for the family that built the cage. The tumblers groaned and the seal cracked, and the door creaked open like a secret finally tired of keeping itself. When we opened that door, it was hell that greeted us. We weren't the only shadows moving inside the Garden Essence home. Bella Goth slid in with the agility of a panther, silent, searching for her daughter, of course, but also chasing shadows of her own. She's seen the case files, the whispers about Nancy and Jeff. She doesn't need SIMS to tell her something is rotting at the core. If her presence alone wasn't enough to convince me that this night was about to get interesting, Geoffrey himself slipped through the garage door after her. Words were exchanged, but I remember none of them. My father, the coward, was here. The man who let Nancy throw me to the curb. I thought I hated him, but when I saw him standing in that room, I realized he was here. Not for Nancy, but for me, and my knees nearly gave out. This wasn't like that night at the gala where we posed and smiled for photos, playing the parts we always did. He'd really been watching, waiting, protecting me in ways I couldn't see. Agnes was right. He never let go. And now, for the first time, we stood on the same side. That was the exact moment that the night finally split open under the weight of the full moon. I thought I'd known chaos before, but none of it compared to what was about to take place inside those walls. Howling, so loud the whole house seemed to shake. Cassandra froze. Eliza pressed herself closer to the shadows. Bella reached for her daughter like a lioness wanting to protect her cub. But the truth was written on all of our faces. None of us knew how to hold back a werewolf pack gone rabid with moonlight. With the last of their reason stripped away, werewolves surged in, all claws and hunger. They poured from the shadows like living nightmares, fangs bared, eyes burning, their howls splitting the marrow in my bones. Eliza's instincts screamed before mine did. She raised her half-broken camera and fired one last, blinding flash. The room erupted in white. Wolves stumbled, claws outstretched, but when the light died, they landed on her. Their weight crushed her to the floor, teeth tearing through her arm, her shoulder. Her scream, forever frozen in my memory. Geoffrey threw himself forward, his training taking over. He drove one wolf back with nothing but a jagged pipe. But the pack swarmed, jaws closing around him too. I saw blood gush, heard the awful sound of teeth grinding against bone. He shouted at us to run as their blood stained the floor. That's when Octavia Moon appeared, moonlight shining on her like a spotlight, her voice low, then rising. She seemingly floated straight into the center of the chaos, lips moving in a song none of us had ever heard before. Old Simlish, raw and guttural, dredged from the Moonwood Mill archives. Her melody cut through the frenzy. The song didn't just fill the room, it bent it. The wolves staggered mid-leap, claws slashing at air as if the sound alone pinned them down. Their howls shifted, first in rage, then in grief, an echo of something ancient. They swayed like trees in a storm, muscles trembling, their eyes wild at first, but slowly softening into something almost human. As the song came to a close, I swear the walls shivered along with us, like they too remembered the song. For one heartbeat, time bowed to her voice. The chaos obeyed her. The pack stood frozen, their frenzy broken, their eyes wide with recognition. They backed away, one by one, leaving Octavia standing alone at the center, her voice still trembling on the final note. Watcher. Victory is never clean. In the silence of the aftermath, a cry rang out from beyond the dark doorway we'd opened moments before. Inside the room, the air reeked of sweat, musk, and fear. As my eyes adjusted, the source of the sound appeared. A boy I'd seen at a few of my early shows. But he was not himself. He was a shell, trembling, eyes rolling back, lips cracked and bleeding. "Geekon," he rasped. Just those two words. "Geekon." He flinched with each one, as if they were stabbing him. "Geekon," he repeated painfully. Octavia's gaze followed his to the urns lined like trophies along the wall, each marked with a name. The last one? Celine. Later, I found that it was her trail that dragged the wolves here. While we were fighting for our lives, Eliza's camera crew did their jobs. They caught everything. Nancy's shady meetings, her blackmail of the Buckinghams, even her plot to set Summer and Liberty up to take the fall. Geoffrey, bleeding, pressed the thumb drive in my hand and said, "I've owed you this for a long time. Show the world, son. Show them we land grabs aren't all bad." This was it. Geoffrey, Dad's smoking gun. Years of his intel paired with my testimony and Eliza's footage. It was everything we needed. The dynasty finally wasn't untouchable anymore. But Nancy had left before the dust even stirred. She fled with the Buckinghams, Liberty, and Summer in tow. I don't think those girls know yet. They're not protégés. They're bait. Pigs to slaughter. We freed Travis. But what we pulled from that room was barely him. His eyes didn't recognize anyone. His mind was shattered into fragments. Eliza and Geoffrey breathe, but barely. Both mauled, bleeding out. I can feel the Reaper's cold presence hovering close enough that I begin to visibly shiver from the realization. We might not all leave this room alive, and even if we do, the scars will never fade. Watcher, I am not going back to that rundown trailer. Along with the thumb drive, Geoffrey also handed me the keys to Afalista Mansion, the family home I was never invited to visit. Judith hates it, says it's tacky and soulless. She's right. For all her vanity, her laughter keeps the halls from feeling too hollow. I wonder sometimes if I found her or if she found me. If she's the one good accident in all of this. She may have been guarded at first, but somewhere along the line, she realized she could stop acting. Even jesters and starlets need someone who sees past the mask. Every headline on the Sims News Network bears the land grab name. The family assets are under investigation, but Nancy still breathes freely. Somewhere out there, she's plotting. I know it. And as long as she's out there, none of us are safe. We won a battle, but the war is far from over. And the cost? Travis's mind, Eliza's blood, Geoffrey's soul, my legacy. Tell me it was worth it. Johnny. Johnny, honestly, I thought about letting Grim write this epilogue. He was practically vibrating with anticipation. He does love a stage soaked in blood. But no, this story is not his to gossip about. It's yours to run up the flagpole. Every story needs a beast at the gate, and you have given us quite the show. Your truth is like glass, sharp, cutting, impossible to ignore, and still, beneath all that jagged edge, I see the bruised child who was told to smile for cameras while his heart begged for a stage. The world has long mistaken your wit for foolishness, when in truth, it was armor. You have waited a long time for this reckoning. Years of being cast aside, painted the fool, your laughter mistaken for emptiness instead of the mask it was. Tonight, you stripped that mask away. You stood in the room where all the threads converged, and you opened the door no one else could. War always demands more than it gives back. Because of you, lives were wrestled from Grimm's scythe. Cassandra breathes because of you. Octavia found her voice because you held the line long enough for her to sing. Geoffrey placed his faith not in the dynasty or the agency, but in you. Travis lives because you refuse to stop looking. And because of all of your efforts, Eliza's cameras were able to catch every moment of Nancy's downfall. Worth is subjective, Johnny. It doesn't balance cleanly, especially against blood spilled and shattered souls. Travis's mind is fractured. Eliza and Geoffrey's soul journey hangs by a thread. Even you walked out of that room carrying scars that will never fully heal. No, it might not feel like it was worth it, but it was necessary. Necessary for Octavia to find her song, for Geoffrey to free himself from his double life and call you son out loud and proudly. Necessary to show the world that Nancy's empire isn't girl boss goals, but a gilded apple rotting at its core. Nancy wrapped herself in wealth and power, as if they were the only things that mattered, and thought herself untouchable. You have proven otherwise. You and the misfits she underestimated have cracked her mask. She is a queen, on the run from the guillotine. You waited patiently in the fringes for your moment, and now you are lord of the castle, with a rare jewel by your side, one who doesn't care about your land grab past, or the scars that gave you your zest, someone who sees you simply as Johnny. Your justice might not have been clean, but it was righteous. You are not the family fool. You are the one who resets the ledger, the one who brings purpose to legacy. You cannot unmake this night, nor the things it revealed. The cost, terrible as it is, was enough to purchase possibility, the first real chance to change the narrative. One Nancy cannot control. The war is not over, but for the first time, the playing field is level. Tonight, you learned many things. But I hope you remember this. History does not belong to every glittering diamond, but to those who endure long enough to etch their truth into stone. Take care on your way. The Watcher. Before we part, a reminder. While the characters in this podcast are drawn from the rich lore of The Sims, the stories told here are works of fiction, crafted to inspire your own gameplay. Any resemblance to real people is purely coincidental, and the advice given should never, under any circumstances, be applied to the real world. The thoughts and opinions shared are my own and do not represent those of EA or Maxis. I am Maven, your storyteller, researcher, and editor. If you have enjoyed your time in my domain, support the podcast by sharing it with your fellow Simmers, leaving a review, and joining our ever-growing community. You can also support this project by joining me on Watch Your Lore, an exclusive bi-weekly companion podcast where I sit down with my fellow Simmers to explore their favorite townies, headcanons, and dive even deeper into the stories of the Sims universe. Available only on Patreon, Watch Your Lore takes you behind the curtain and deeper down the lore rabbit hole. Visit patreon.com/bemorenatural to unlock access to early episodes and even more Watcher secrets. And if you wish to expand your own Sims universe, consider using my EA Creator Code MSBM0R3 when purchasing DLC through the EA app. Every use directly supports this project and keeps the Watcher's gaze ever watchful. Until next time, my faithful, keep your doors locked, your hearts guarded, and remember, the Watcher is always watching.